Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Alright guys, very nice day today, a very nice day ahead of CPI. Really handled everything really well this morning. From yesterday, the lessons from yesterday, we used some lessons from yesterday's learning. We waited patiently for the amateur moves, did not do anything crazy in the amateur moves, and then we nailed a lot of trades in the morning short side and end of the day. So all right guys, so let's start. Before I start, just a quick introduction to anybody who's new to me, new to my Twitter, new to YouTube, or new to our community. So all these recaps are from the trades that I take or I don't take, but most of these trades are from either from my community, other traders are taking from our game plan, any ideas from Twitter, or any ideas that I share on YouTube in previous videos, all the recaps, and we discuss that. We try to see how we made money, how we lost money. We do not trade random. We do not trade on gut feeling. We trade fixed setups, fixed system. I have a fixed trading strategy, trading system that I show that works consistently. We try to minimize the losers and we try to maximize the winners, and we play those repeatable setups, repeatable systems. Every morning before the market open, me and my team, we go through all the news sources, up gappers, down gappers. We create what we call as morning game plan. We also create daily levels that you see in my all the videos, and we create a day-to-day 3 setup sheets. Today was running a little late, so we only focused on our main game plan. Most of the levels I covered in our game plan because most of our stocks like Netflix, Tesla, Google, AMD, MU, NVDA, all those had some news, upgrades and downgrades. That's why we had we had all our levels clearly defined in our game plan. We really nailed everything according to the game plan. We will take a look and see how everything worked out. We'll talk about the morning shorts and end of the day breakout. So that being said, that and I'm usually on a voice first few hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, and if needed I come on voice later in the day as well. Guiding the community through the trade ideas, market commentary, what is moving, what is selling, what should be a short, what should be a long, guiding my community through all the trades. So you will see some of my comments that I alert in my feed, but you will not see a lot of my comments that I'm live on voice and I share with everyone. Anyways, that being said, let's start with the first play of the day. So first of all, we're going to talk about SPY QQQ. The first one that we did was we shorted the market in the morning at the open. How did we short it? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about SPY and QQQ. So this morning when the market opened, market was gapping up a little bit, but it started rejecting. You can see I said it's rejecting. So it was rejecting the pre-market highs. Today I gave the levels on voice. I didn't give the level sheet, but the levels were pretty clear. Most of my traders and community they know what levels I'm looking at. So this pre-market high was failing. This pre-market high was failing. You can clearly see that pre-market high is failing here. Pre-market high is failing here and failing, and then it's heavy, right? So that's what the rejections we were watching. And then once it break the clouds, you could short 512 or you could short 3450. That's when I said it's bear flagging. We can short it, and I told everybody we can take puts. Same for QQQ. So from the QQQ perspective, so I was saying that let's look at QQQ comments. What I was saying from QQQ perspective, what I was saying that it's really heavy, more heavier than SPY. So let's see. Sorry, what I was saying was SPY was still heavy than QQQ. QQQ was still holding. If you see here, SPY was already breaking the clouds, but QQQ was still over the clouds. And the other thing we noted this morning was semiconductors were weak. The sector was weak. I always talk about the sectors. I tell you to focus on sectors, not just blindly on one stock. In my previous YouTube recaps, how much I stress upon that you need to focus on sector. So you can see both of them were kind of bear flagging. So that was our opportunity to short not only these names, but also to short the techs. So I said we were already short semiconductors. I will discuss that separately in the next segment. we were already short on the semis, but I told everyone if QQQ breaks, all these semis are going to flush. If short, hold for a bit, right? So that's what I told everyone, that if QQQ breaks, then everything is going to flush hard. You can see that, right? Right here is where my comments were. And right, that's where we flushed. Look here. Flushed and everything flushed. Breaking the pre-market lows, breaking the cloud, pre-market lows, you just shorted, right? So I'm telling everybody, hold your shorts a tad bit long. See, hold a short a tad bit long. And we were short the market, SPY QQQ, we were short all those semiconductors, everything. So everything was weak. And ideally the 518 was first target, but when 518 breaks, it's complete flush to the lows. You can see all these levels were the support and targets, and they were meeting 515, 71, 517. This was like crazy flush in the morning, and everybody was short. This SPX puts went crazy, 200-300%, and SPY puts went crazy. I personally was shorting the semiconductors, and this was a decent winning reward in the market with this morning short. You can clearly see the setup, and you can clearly see the guidance, right? And you can clearly see how I was talking about semiconductors, which can further take us down. And not only this, we look at Apple, right? Microsoft. So we look at all those names, they are rejecting. So there's nothing that can take the market. And when market was flushing, even the big movers like Google came back, right? So Tesla was strong, but that came back on that big flush. So this flush was right, the bearish sentiment started right at that 10:15 a.m. Remember my 10 a.m. rule? So that's when the bear flag break down. The difference in SPY QQQ was SPY was under the clouds bear flag, QQQ was over the clouds bear flag. But there was a huge opportunity in the community. We were, whole community was shorting on the puts all day, all morning. So we really did really good. You can see somebody was an SMCI put, somebody was AMD puts, Desert Dweller was an SPX puts. So whole community was trading the puts, and we were not longing it. Nobody was long here. We were short. Look at this flush from 519 all the way to 514. 441 all the way to 437, and that's where you exponentially make money on your puts, especially when you're trading SPY and QQQ. Compare it to yesterday's chop. And what did I tell you yesterday? From the contraction comes expansion, and this was the expansion today when this range gave up. So you need to focus on this range. So that's why it gave you a high probability, high conviction short. Look at this, right? From yesterday, today, beautiful short. And this short further gave us more opportunities in AMD, NVDA, SMCI. We will talk about those as well. But beautiful win on just SPY QQQ fades. You can pause the screen, see my comments, and review them and see how they worked out. And maybe next time you can nail these fades or the breakouts, whatever happens next. CPI tomorrow, so will be fun in the community. So now I'm going to talk about semiconductors, right? So every day in the morning I'm looking at where's the money is flowing, where is the money flowing, where is the money going out, and we look at the semiconducttors. The first thing I tweeted today was money outflow of semis ahead of CPI. All the semis are weak. You see here, right? And I was doing my sector analysis that I do every day in the morning after 10 minutes, try to see what sector was weak, and the sector that was weak was SMH in the morning. So SMH was the weak sector in the morning. So that's how I knew, because right at the open, if you see my comments here, what I was saying was AMD was heavy, no long in semis, right? So this is where you identify the sector weakness, so you can short with confidence. When it is long, we long with confidence. So that's the key thing here. You could have shorted the entire SMH ETF, the puts on that, so that would have been nice, but we shorted individual names, which we will discuss next. But nice win there as well on the market short, semiconductor ETF short, or the semiconductor short. So the first semiconductor we're going to look at is AMD. So what was AMD today? So I clearly told. So like I told you earlier, we were not doing any amateur move. If I had taken an amateur move on AMD right at open, I would have swiped back and lost money just like Meta. So we don't repeat the mistake. I had, there were a few amateur moves, a smaller size. Even if we lose, there's very small size on amateur move. And I explain to you every day. And I would have swiped and lost money. But guess what? I did not touch that AMD amateur move. We touched ARM, but that was tiny, and we will talk about it in a minute. But then AMD was a fade, NVIDIA was a fade. So I told everyone, do not touch semis, right? Just we talked about it. Do not touch it, do not touch it. There was no need. The support was 170. Once this 170 gave up after the amateur move, that was a short to 167. So that was a good one. So next one was semiconductor, was NVIDIA. A lot of people in the community were short NVIDIA, and NVIDIA was even better flush. Let's look at my levels. My levels on NVIDIA were 870, 874. I clearly told everyone, do not long under 870. And on top of it, right at open, I saw the weakness breaking under the cloud. I told everyone we are breaking under the cloud. And when we break the pre-market lows, that's it. And then the QQQ is breaking down. QQQ is breaking down, you see here. So I told everyone, if QQQ breaks, all the semis are going to flush. If short, hold tad bit more. So I told everybody about that. So you can see the conviction, how it's going to work. And then NVIDIA faded from 870 pivot, 864 pivot, all the way to 830. There was a $50 fade. And we really did nice on a lot of the puts went, in the community. Somebody was short NVIDIA, somebody was short AMD, somebody short NVIDIA, others. But, see, Naeem Najim got it 3 times, right? NVIDIA short, so everybody were short. Some people got out early, but that was a good fade. NVIDIA, everything was short. So big, and 850 was the target that I gave everyone, and we met more than that target. The next one, which I personally shorted, was SMCI. So me personally, I was focusing on SMCI short. That's what I told everybody, because I was focused on these cloud breaks. Then I was focused on pre-market lows break, and then I was focused on 900 break. And I was late on SMCI, but I still got like 35%. If I was early on SMCI, I would have gotten like 100%, but I was, it was a decent size was good. I had bear flag breakdown, and look when it's coming out. It's coming at 10 a.m. And then when you saw this consolidation, you just get out, right? Because this is a consolidation, you don't want to hold and get out. But you can see that this is my 34% win on SMCI. Actually was more, but that was beautiful, so that was beautiful. I mean, I shorted a lot of stuff. We will talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about ARM. So I added ARM very small size, and I knew it. Let's go back to the plan. First ARM. So ARM only long versus the clouds on pullback, because look, the risk level is too much. 129, 130. Resistance is 134. So if we are trying to make a breakout, we know how big our risk level is here. That was the only problem with ARM. So I personally added, let's say I add 5,000 shares. So I just added like 1,000 shares. If I add 1,000 shares, I just added 200 shares. Something that really doesn't bother me, and even if it goes down, doesn't affect me, because I wanted to have a feeler, see if it holds or not. So let's say ARM, I long started small size, and then it was pulling back, and I was looking for a bounce, add here. But when it breaks 512 and it does this action, remember, this was amateur move. So amateur move was always, you don't know, and the semiconductors are fading right away. They were weak, right away they were weak. And then I saw this pulling back, but I was not liking what I'm seeing, right? I want to see strength before I add like my regular position. I will cut if no bounce. And it showed me heaviness, and at the same time QQQ was fading, and at the same time semiconductors were fading. I was out, and I told everyone we shorted. Look at here, RGV was guiding everybody on the short because he was long, right? But he shifted pivot way early because he saw that the weakness and in the semiconductors, and he saw how much room we have for this ARM short. From the highs, even if you got 133s, ARM faded all the way to 124s. There was like a $10 short possible on ARM. And even when I stopped out, I said I closed it, right? When I closed ARM, and even after that fade, 130s, it faded $4 or $5. There was a lot of opportunity there. So anyways, ARM was a, buy the plan, small size loser, but definitely covered it on the short side. So, semiconductors, when they are weak, you get out. There was somebody who did not get out because he didn't plan and he sized too much. And that's what I was telling you. You have to change your buys into the other side. Short, if its amateur move is not working, trend move is bearish, short it. Look at this trend move. And you just short it. The 10-minute candle starting here, you short it. Similar name, that one was TSM. And even the TSM, we went from long to short because market was weak. So let's see what was the plan on TSM. So TSM, we were, I didn't cover, here you go. So 146 and under gap fill, right? So this was the plan I gave everybody in the pre-market. 146 and under is the gap fill, and then over 140 is the breakout. It was bouncing of 146, that is fine, right? And I was saying watch 146 to hold, that was okay. But when after the amateur move showed me this rejection candle, I told everybody switch short. Right, so time to switch short. So you switch short here from 146, 144.90 was the first target. We met that, and even it actually filled the full gap. Because understand, on these gap longs, you have a big risk of the gap fill. Never underestimate the gap fill. So that's how you turn, from long to, and we have done it so many times in past, if you see my other videos. So even if you lost, let's say you were long and you lost $2, but you could have made $3 on the downside or $4. I mean, look at the gap fill. System is not wrong. System is telling you, after the amateur move, system is telling you short. That's why I told everybody short. And we filled the full gap fill. And really, folks did really good on TSM in the community today. Saurabh covered the gap fill. Yagnesh was targeting 142.75. Matty was on the short TSM. So, ML was short ARM and TSM. So these are the plays where you turn from a bull to bear because your system is telling you market is weak, semiconductor sector is weak, tech is weak, and the system is high probability gap, and you trade this with confidence, and you just, small account, few contracts is enough. And beautiful trade. So so you can see the guidance, right? It's not that we are staying long by the dip. We are wrong on the long, switch right away. If there's a gap, fill it. So another one that was really nice for us today was coin, right? So coin was also a short in the community today. So I told everybody in the morning, short coin under the pivots, because here, let's go to our game plan. Our pivots were 253, 250, and resistance was 255, 256. It never really crossed our resistance. You can see here, right? And right away, it kind of broke down of the downside pivots, right? So you see that it broke down of the downside pivot. So when it breaks down of the downside pivot, that's when you short it. And look, my target was 245. They're swiping 246, but and I will actually reduce my position because it was I was profitable here. I reduced my position and I didn't even leave much there. I was closing the position. Then market tanked. It faded more because I had, this area. This is the area you have to respect. That's why you have to respect. Because even though it's swiping from 246 to 250, that might be too wide based upon your entry, but system never lied. System tells you to have wider stops, and it faded from 250 back to 241, especially when QQQ tanked. So short, coin short, another winning idea in the community today. So let's look at next one. So next one was Google. So what was the plan on Google in the community today? The Google, I was long in the morning. I gave everyone the pivots. Let's look at the pivots. The Google pivots were 155, 157. And once it was breaking out the 155s, or, you could risk the clouds, I was long. and I reduced my size after the amateur move because of the market, but it held a bit, and a target I gave everyone was 158.62. We almost met the target. Where did I find the target from? So the target came from this place, right? Few days ago, pre-market, after hours, whatever the price was, that's where we got our target, and that's how we nailed it, right? So that's where we got our target, and that's how we nailed it to the for our target from the morning long, from 157s to 158.62. And when market was tanking, I told everybody lock half. We lock half, move the stops, break even. Market puked, we were out of Google. You can pause the screen, see my time spam guidance. Another great trade. So next one we're going to talk about is Tesla. Tesla was long in the community all day long, really strong, very strong. And you can see, I did 60% gains on my calls. Again, because I'm guiding the community, I can't trade that fast because I'm on the voice, I'm looking at 10-20 tickers, and I'm but I try to get what I could. Sometimes my entries are bad, but that's fine. But so that was Tesla. So Tesla breakout. What was the pivots? Just go back, let's look at that. So Tesla, Goldman lowered the PT. There was kind of news, but the plan was to stay bullish as long as over 172.75. You can see support pivots, you can see resistance pivots, and right out of the gate, it showed me strength. And I said breakout long as well, stops under the clouds. So you saw that when it breaks out of this place, that's where we long 174. Your stops under 170, under 173, $1 stops, and it went on to 179.22. I gave the targets 175.60. I gave the target 177.19. I gave the target 160.20. All of my targets met. My final target was 180, and that's where I left runners in it, right? Let's say I have 20 contracts and I closed 15 and I left 5. Because even if the 5 go to 180, I make a lot of money. If I lose their break even, that's fine. So anyways, guys, so that was a long winner in even this market sell-off. You could have shorted it with the market, a B minus, but we didn't need that setup. A lot of traders were trading actually the bounce setups in the community later in the day. So Tesla was a great winner. You can pause the screen, see my timestamp commentary, guys. Amazing day today. So many opportunities, So let's look at now Netflix. So Netflix today was also a short. Let's go look at our game plan. So Barsley raises the price target. So levels I gave was 628 and 633. So these are the two levels I gave the everyone. And right away it was breaking those levels. Look here, breaking those levels. So when it's breaking those levels, it means it can, it's a short. And with the market heavy, that was a beautiful short. And a lot of our traders were actually all in the Netflix today, trading Netflix. And if you see that, Steve was right at the open, Neil Pay was on Netflix, Kyle, Inway student, and and John was actually short a lot of things. So you can see, look at this short from the 628 all the way to 615, back to 20 EMA on daily. This was another amazing short in the community. Just beautiful, so let's go to the next one. And look, this is what I said, still short under the pivots, right? Even at 10 a.m. it's bear flagging. So you have the levels, you have the plan, you have the system, you short it and let it work. So many opportunities today. Other thing I told everyone this morning was Meta. So Meta, again, I said bearish, only shorts, no longs. And that's what I told everyone, because that was the plan. And couldn't give the levels, but mostly my students or my traders in our community, they know what our system is. Meta was under the clouds, under the levels, and that's it. With the market short, 510 was the first target, I told everyone, and then 500 was next, second. And when SPY QQQ is puking like this, guys, literally pick anything, right? So everything moves with the market, so you have to pick up anything to short it. And like in the community, you were shorting it. And let's look here. So I was short bunch of stuff. So I was SPY, Meta, Coin, SMCI, everything was short in the morning for me. You can clearly see that if I'm saying something, I'm also taking those trades with you guys, And I try to, not all of them, but so this is just to show you that everything was short. Most of these went 30, 40, 100%. I scaled out on the way. So next one we're going to look at is Boeing. So Boeing was a news alert in the community. So Boeing was a news alert by the community. So it was by let's see if I can show you that news alert on Boeing. Let's see if I can find that. Everything has BA, right? So anyways, so here you go. So a lot of traders were in Boeing short today. Okay, here, look at this news. Boeing. A lot of news coming in Boeing that insiders are, going to speak against it, and a lot of all that bearish news was in Boeing on our news board. And since it spoke, and that's it, right? It just tank, and nice short. Just another news play, like I discussed in my last videos, and that's why we stay at the top of all these, right? So look at here, Texas news, Boeing. March deliveries were bad. Boeing was making lows. The options were horrendous on Boeing, right? So the shares were much better short. But anyways, that was a nice short all day. There was a no long for community in Boeing. All right, guys. Next one, we're going to look at PANW. It was not my trade, but PANW was, it's one of our day 2, day 3 setups. We watch it every day for a swing back. This is one of the beaten down names we have been watching. And today it kind of moved a lot. So look here, and a lot of traders in the community were on top of PNW because we traded every day, and Jet was on top of it. Shout out to Jet, right? So Jet was on top of it, and he was watching those daily levels. So shout out Jet. And I had set a breakout alert at 273, and when that, you see this level area was the breakout, and when this breaks out, it was a nice long 1 hour was bullish. That was the signal to long. 1 hour bullish. For the first time, 1 hour turned bullish. When things get moving over 50 EMAs or 3450 clouds, that's your bullish signal. So PNW was nice community idea today. So we're going to wrap the things up with the SPY QQQ end of the day breakout. I just want to show you that this is a repeatable setup that I teach in my webinars. This setup is end of the day 512 curl, which later becomes end of the day 3450 curl, right? So look at the squeeze on SPY QQQ end of the day. So here was the alert: SPY crossing 517, 512, watch 3450. There was a SPY alert, and there was a QQQ alert. SPY crossing, market pushing 512, 3450, and there was an AH squeeze, power hour squeeze. And this is a repeatable setup. You take long right away, Lotto or whatever. I was trading next days. For me, even those went 35%. I was, I even tweeted about this squeeze, and it kind of worked out pretty nicely. I was happy with tomorrow's 28-30%. I don't, risking Lottos. I know I have to risk 100%. I would be making the same money on the Lotto if I risk 100% rather than trading tomorrow's option and doing a 30%. So it was good enough for me. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is how we shorted in the market, and how we shorted in the morning, and how we longed at the end of the day. Look, it recovered almost back to where it kind of opened. Look how far that SPY squeeze. The SPY calls closed up. I'm sure the SPX Lotos might have gone crazy. Look where we closed. We closed right at 519.29. It's a level from morning. So basically it recovered, market recovered all the morning fade right back up, right? So that's but we just find opportunities, guys. That's, we just find opportunities. There's nice little hammer candle today, so will be a breakout tomorrow if SPY breaks out of this 524.58. So CPI will make or break SPY. Let's see if CPI comes low, the SPY is going to go crazy. And then we have FOMC minutes. So tomorrow is going to be fun, guys. Be ready, keep grinding. Focus on your repeatable setups. Do not trade random. I will see you tomorrow. If you want to trade with us, join our community. Do not come for the alerts. We are not an alert service, but I'll try to guide and help you as much as I can. Watch out. And yes, earnings season is coming up. Watch out. Watch my earnings webinar. All the repeatable setups are there, so you don't need anybody to tell you when to short, when to long. You can do it all yourself. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.